Welcome back, guys, to another episode with RC Rewired. So you can see we're at our local hobby shop today. Gonna snag us some of these. Gonna be the plus 5mm axle extensions. Ooh, check out all those tires. I think we'll do a couple things today. We're gonna do the full overview video finally, kind of go over front to back everything I've done to this rig to get it to where it is now. I think we'll also throw on the plus 5mm axle extensions you saw me grab earlier. Put those in the front just to give the offset a little bit more to match the dualies in the back. Now I also did an update on the dually system, the way I have these coupled together. And I'll go ahead and show you what I did with that as well. So starting with the update on the dualies back here, I went ahead and changed up the pieces that I use that come out of that coupling kit. Go ahead and get that off. So instead of using the final piece that has a threaded rod at the end of it, I went ahead and used the same length version that has a threaded hole. Now the reason why I went with this setup is because I noticed that I was only able to get the lock nut on maybe 1 or 2 threads. It wasn't actually seating down very securely, and my wheel was actually falling off. So I went with this route so that I could use just a normal screw. It's going to plug into that and hold your wheel on more securely. Alright, so I think we'll start by installing the plus 5mm axles, and then we'll go over the whole rig. Cannot lose these pins. Alright. So to get to that, we're gonna have to take off this side of the steering arm, and then these are gonna get a little floppy on us. We'll be able to take off the screws, take the knuckles out, and then these will slide right out. Alright, well that was pretty simple. You saw I struggled there a little bit with getting that pin back inside the axle. Sometimes it's not the easiest thing to do with these 24th scale rigs. Now I did opt to leave the washers, or the little spacers, out. I used millstone wheel weights instead. So I think let's start with the aesthetics, the outside. So I did do a lot of work on this thing. I started with the idea that I wanted a flatbed truck instead of your typical C10. And I really enjoyed I really enjoyed how the original C10 body on the SX24 looked. So I wanted to go ahead and keep that C10, but then, you know, turn it into my own rig. So we took one of the C10 bodies. We obviously chopped the bed off, and then I went ahead and used the back of the bed, some of the extra Lexan, to make the wall back here. And then I used the green-blue putty, the epoxy putty, to then create the wall there. So that is how we made the cab of the C10. So we did put a lot of extra little details on the cab of the C10. So I went ahead and bought a Barrage accessory pack, and then that came with some mirrors, as well as some door handles and the windshield wipers. I'm pretty sure the snorkel came in that pack as well, but I do not remember off the top of my head. And then in a deadbolt accessories pack that you can find on Shapeways, I was able to find the little door hinges to give just that nice little extra touch. You will notice that the bumper is actually hard mounted to the body on here as well, and I've entirely eliminated the bumper mount on the frame. Now, another key detail of this rig that I really enjoy about the cab is I did a full interior and added a little driver. So if you can look real carefully, you can see that inner dash. And we've got a little micro world's smallest G.I. Joe in there as the driver, which turned out to be a really close to scale overall for this build. So I've been really happy with that. I did do a custom paint job on this, and it was my first attempt at painting a body. And I did this layered setup so that I could get kind of a self-weathering look to it. So as it scrapes paint off or chips it off, you'll see layers of silver for like metal, and then you'll see layers of kind of a rust color to make it look like an old body. And I've been really enjoying how it's naturally just kind of scraping off and chipping bits of paint, especially around like the door hinges and stuff. I just really like that. And then of course I was a big fan of the stock color of that kind of seafoam green, so I had to go ahead and replicate that. Now the truck bed is actually from Shapeways. It's a 3D printed part. It comes with the bed itself, and then as well as this top bar here. You'll notice the faux lights are going to be coming from the stock C10 kit, and then the bracing bars I've made out of aluminum tubing. And then I also went ahead and made a bumper also out of aluminum tubing, and then a little license plate that I went ahead and just cut a little section out of that tubing to make a flat spot. We got a little piece of flat aluminum panel on there, and then printed out a custom little license plate there. So this Shapeways product is actually probably one of my preferred upgrade mods to these C10 flatbeds. There's a few different ones on Shapeways, but this one was extremely easy to install. There wasn't a whole lot of like aftermarket modding that you really needed to do. It just kind of was a fit right on. You really only need to just move your battery tray for this to work. Now I did put a bunch of scale accessories on the flatbed itself. So we've got some traction boards, which we've seen in a previous video, and we also got a toolbox, a chainsaw, and we have a little cooler, as well as a fire extinguisher up in there. You'll notice that the flatbed is also covered in diamond plate, and this is a hot racing diamond plate that I cut to shape to fit in there. I thought that would look really nice. So that's the bulk of the cosmetic upgrades or kind of additions we've done to this, maybe aside from the dually wheels, which I figured would be a mute point, as there's an entire how-to video on setting those up. So I think now we'll just go ahead and have to dive into internally what I've done to make this rig the performer that it is. And so I figure we'll go ahead and get into that now. So let's take the cab off and see what this thing is all about. So as I mentioned, we moved the battery tray, did a horizontal to it, and that way, you know, it gives me all of that space for the truck bed in the back. Performance wise, we did upgrade the motor to the Barrage system. It is a lot more powerful, has a lot more torque to it, and it still gives you all that low end speed, or low end torque rather, which is really nice. I do have the Carisma shocks, which are my go-to. They're really hard to come by, and you do have to do some modding in order for them to fit properly, but they work really, really well. They give your ride not too much articulation, but a lot more than the stock, but less articulation than the double barrels, which I'm still up in the air about. I did go ahead and put aluminum axles. I tend to do that on all my SCX24s. I don't know why I'm so into that, but I definitely am. We've got the brass diff covers, an extra 9 grams on the front and the rear. And as you can see in here, there's all sorts of brass for my steering mechanisms. We've got the brass millstone weights, which is going to be that that spacer for the extra axle extension. There is brass knuckles, and then we also have the brass wheel hex in there as well. We did upgrade the servo, and that's going to be the Emax ES08MAII, the classic go-to for anyone looking to upgrade their servo. I extended the front and the rear of this rig, so it is a 4-link up front, and then I did have to customize my drive shaft. I had to get the small, medium, large kit and then cut the large one to fit this perfect length that I needed, because there was none that was going to work. What else have we done to this thing? It's, you know, you start doing so much stuff to these that you tend to forget everything you've done to them. Hot racing steering link, that picked up or fixed a lot of the slop that is in the steering. Oh, there's the upgraded gearing in the transmission, and that helps keep your motor a little bit cooler. I've noticed. I really haven't seen a whole lot of difference in terms of other performance, but it does keep everything a lot cooler than it normally would. That is about it. There isn't a whole ton on this performance-wise than I was expecting. That is about it. This thing took the majority of the time was all cosmetic features, as you could tell. I do plan on doing some other things to it. I did a Instagram comment here recently, or post recently, where every time I feel like I am done with this rig, I think of just one more thing. Just one more. Always, right? Well, I think that sums it up for the overview and kind of the full rundown of the Axial SCX24 C10 custom dually. I think now it's about time we just go give it a little ride. We did have the new extensions in there, giving us an extra millimeter on either side of the front end, so I wonder if that's going to have much of a difference. Probably not, but let's go drive it anyway. All right.
Well, I'm sure I've forgotten some things. It happens when you do a lot of mods to your rig. Oh, like the overdrive gears that I put in the C10, and like a little skid plate that I have under there as well, just to help get up and over certain rocks and stuff. Coming at you real quick from the future, as I'm editing this video, I realized I had forgotten entirely to tell you how I attached the cab to the chassis itself. So it uses magnets, and I didn't want to make anything overly permanent on this rig, so I have a piece of Lexan that connects to the actual body posts, and then those have some magnets on top of them. The flatbed itself has some magnets inlaid in them as well, and then the cab has a couple magnets up underneath the hood and then in the back of the cab. And then when they all sit down and magnetize to each other, it creates a really solid fit. So it doesn't want to go anywhere. But let's give it a little ride and end this video off. Now it is snowing out, so it's getting a little slippery. Man, I sure do like this rig. It has been a lot of fun working on it and adding new components. I think those plus 5mm axle extensions from Full Send was a really good idea for this project. Maybe I'll go with the plus 1mm hexes next time around, see if we can't push that front end out even more. Who knows, that'll be pretty cool. Well, I think that'll wrap it up for today. Did a full overview of the C10 custom dually build. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Anything you guys would do differently? Are you inspired to make your own now? That would be pretty cool. Well, until next time, happy crawling.